appreciating it all himself in order to further understand himself more. So before we delve into my questions, how have you been since the last time we spoke?
I've been extremely busy doing tons of interviews, one after another. I've been trying to balance everything out with like my home life, my online Starseed courses, which are phenomenal. They're taking off really well. A lot of people are enjoying those courses. I'm also in the process of writing a new chapter for the second edition of our Cosmic Origin, which should be ready by September.
Okay,
And
that's
yeah,
amazing.
so I've been staying really busy.
I know you've been doing so many interviews with everyone in the movement now. Like I think you've gone around with pretty much everyone I know for sure. But so in keeping with the themes of mysticism, it will be good to, I think, clarify. I know you've spoken about this. You're probably tired of speaking about this a little bit, but it'll be good to clarify the story of Adam and Eve for my viewers, whether, it's just an allegory or whether it's actually quite literal or even a little bit of both.
Well, the original Adam came into being in Lyra about 600 million years ago. From Lyra, the human population in our galaxy spread to the different solar systems, eventually reaching our own. And that's how humanity was seeded long ago, by the Lyran and the Pleiadians and our galactic ancestors. So in the Bible, it's more of a metaphor describing a conscious being that is a spark of source and embodiment. And so we could trace the origin in terms of our galaxy, we could trace the origin of the original human back to Lyra. But in terms of the multiverse, the first humans that originated or came into being were in the first universe, which dates back to 980 billion years ago during the first creation. We're part of the 12th creation. So there's been 11 other creations prior to us. And then within each creation, you have their own universes, galaxies, systems, and planets. So the original Adam actually goes back to the first universe, and there is a universal archetype in which all human-like beings are made in the image of, and that image comes from the central race of Havana, which I describe in my book, Central Mother Universe. That's the always existing race without beginning or end, and so in terms of them manifesting in physical form, they would be human-like. So the human structure exists throughout the entire multiverse, and it's really the main one. All the other species are in the minority compared to the humanoid species.
Okay, I've read a lot about the story of Adam and Eve and so many different reiterations of different people's interpretations. And first of all, I've read that Eden is not a mythological place, but a real location. And I think it was Africa, because the oldest Homo sapien fossils were found in Africa. But the word Eden, I've read that it is obviously a Sumerian word in which the first syllable, E, means the home, and then Din is an abbreviation of the gods. So Eden quite literally translates to home of the gods. Is that correct?
Right, and that was actually located in Mesopotamia, and what we call today the Far Near East, the Middle East.
Okay.
That's where the original establishments, or that's when the Iberians, who are the gods of mythology, originally settled, was in Mesopotamia. So the original Eden was known as Erudai. The original colony that was established by the Iberians 450,000 years ago when they first came to our solar system.
Right. And we all know about the Anunnaki, who are otherworldly beings that came to Earth and used man as slaves to work on the mineral-rich land in Africa. And I've read that Enki and Enlil were obviously two of the Anunnaki brothers, not obviously, but that sort of bread, who were the demigod leaders who sort of ran East Eden and West Eden. And I think in the book of Genesis, the tale of Adam and Eve, and even in our Muslim book, the Quran, are regarded as obviously, like you said, symbolic myth almost, but there's so many clues in these books that suggest that it draws upon some sort of earlier account of a real event. So I don't know, the first clue is obviously that God describes himself as we. What does that mean? Because people say it's because it means it's like the royal we, but it could also mean that there was more than one God, as in Enki and Enlil, who seem to be literally walking, talking gods roaming the earth plane. And I think the second clue is the presence of the serpent, which is a symbol all over the ancient world. And I think the serpent also seems to represent Enki himself, which
Absolutely.
it's kind of like the genetic scientist who created man. But is it a coincidence that the modern symbol of medicine is a serpent entwined around a staff, I believe?
Well, there's a distinction between the symbol of the serpent and the caduceus. That symbolizes the DNA strands that are going up your spine, or what they call the Kundalini energy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as like Enki is concerned, he was actually the demiurge, according to the secret knowledge in the Gnostic texts.
Right.
Demiurge is the line of lineage of Lucifer Draco. So through Enki's line, we had the Dracos, and technically the Anunnaki were known as the Nibirians. They came from the planet Nibiru, which was a battlestar planet that was actually initially working for the Galactic Federation, that was established by the Syrian High Council as a type of galactic protector, overseeing the development of over 200,000 solar systems. And that explains its 3,600-year elliptical orbit, because when it was outside of our solar system, it was actually patrolling other star systems. But later it was infiltrated through Draman, who was Enki's mother. She was the queen of the dragon, or the queen of the Draco Empire. And that's how they were able to infiltrate the Anunnaki, and that's when they made the slave race. So what they did is actually they took a gene from Homo erectus, which came from Africa, and then they took some of their genetics, and then they had mixed it with the already existing Atlanteans, who were our ancestors, the 12-strand DNA Tyrannusian race. And then that's how they were able to degrade them down to savages, and use the Atlanteans that they downgraded as slaves. And so Enki represents the serpent in the Bible, and through his lineage, we had the Luciferian Brotherhood, which manifested in Babylon in the form of Nimrod. And then through Enlil, Jehovah, Zeus, we have the lineage of the Lion, the house of King David, and which is represented by the offspring of Michael the Archangel. So Enlil, Zeus, was actually the good guy. The Sakurai Sitchin was part of the Cabal. When he translated those tablets,
Really?
He confused everybody. Yeah, he confused everybody. He was very deep with the Cabal. He was part of the Bohemian Grove cult. He was also part of the Trilateral Commission and the Bilderberg Group. And so he was very deep with the Cabal. Yeah, so when he translated those records...
Do you think most people aren't aware of that, are they? Because they do...
Oh, no. Yeah, everybody's been hypnotized or at least sold on the idea that Enki was the good guy. But if they only knew that Enki was the one who created the Dark Brotherhood and the reason why the world has been suffering since the times of Atlantis. He's the leader of Luciferian. Well, through his son Marduk, who became Belial of Babylon. That's how the dark side took over our world. It was through that infiltration when Anu, the Nibirian commander, had intercourse with Draman, and then of course Enki came, but then he was also able to give birth to Enlil, who was the rightful heir to the throne of this earth. And that explains the seed of King David and Solomon. They come from the seed of Enlil.
So what exactly happened after the serpent intervened? Like Adam and Eve were embarrassed of being naked. Also, I think in the Bible and the Quran, they refer to the acquisition of knowledge, right? And this knowledge clearly suggests that they were the first human pair to become sexually aware. And this knowledge was obviously sexual knowledge, and it must mean the idea, just the idea of reproduction, I think, because, Ismael, all religious scriptures suggest that this awareness was caused by the consumption of fruits, right? And this is, I think, a very significant detail, because according to the scenario outlined so far, man was created by the gods as a hybrid creature, and hybrids are nearly always born sterile, aren't they? So, I don't know, to me personally, the tale of sexual knowledge being granted in the Garden of Eden has a ring of truth to it. So does that all fall into place?
Yes, and also the Apple incident is metaphorically speaking to the advanced technological knowledge that Enki, gave to the spiritually unevolved mortals, or the different groups that they downgraded down to, primitives. Right. And so that's why Atlantis fell, but it was all a metaphor, but yes, you're right. When they created the first prototype, they were unable to reproduce on their own until the Nibirians started upgrading them so that they could eventually reproduce on their own. And that was the beginning of what we call the Homo sapiens sapien lineage, in which, a lot of us come from, at least those that are Rh positive blood type that carry the primitive gene. So
essentially what you're suggesting is that the serpent god was Enki, right?
Yeah.
and he was basically the genetic scientist of gods, and the fruit with which he tempted Eve would thus, I guess, symbolize a deliberate genetic intervention by him.
Yes, he was trying to corrupt the bloodline of Michael, which later led to the incarnation of Jesus.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
Through Enlil Zeus, yeah. Enlil was also Zeus to the Greeks, by the way, the thunder god, the chief god of the Olympians. See the parallels?
Wow, that is so interesting. So is this where the tree of life comes in? Because Adam and Eve were advised not to eat from the tree because it obviously made them sexually aware. And the tree of life had, I guess, like a secret. And that secret was immortality, to just live forever through your progeny, I suppose. Right?
Metaphorically speaking, yes. But you have to understand, before Enki's genetic tampering in Atlantean times, we were originally immortal. Our original race was a Terranusian race that were the original Atlanteans. So they took a portion of those people, and they admixed it, and they interbreeded them, or through advanced genetic engineering in the laboratory, to create an inferior race in order to enslave them. So he's the reason why there's been slavery for thousands of years, and he's the reason why humans have been limited to only 4% of their full capacity.
Okay, and I guess it does make sense, because if man was created in the image of God, it makes sense that Enki is sort of like the genetic manipulator who reprogrammed the human race to be able to reproduce independently, without obviously the knowledge of his rival brother Enlil. I think Enki may have implanted two women, one with a male embryo and one with the female embryo, right? And that's how Adam and Eve were born. Is that what you're suggesting?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Moving forward, Ismael, I don't know if you know this, but in Europe, in England specifically, we are going through quite a heat wave at the moment. This is probably the hottest day in England today, but it's just the weather is crazy hot, and we're experiencing. It's not normal, because we perennially just have rain all throughout the year, and the news has obviously used this as the perfect opportunity to put all these fear-mongering stories up and warning people to literally submerge themselves in sunscreen, and telling them that it's better to work from home, and this may be the actual permanent future climate scenario going forward every summer. But climate change, is quite a divisive issue in our communities, within our families and our friends. And after all this antagonism we face from our loved ones about the clownvid narrative, I'm seeing that the agenda is to further carbon taxes, environmental compliances on businesses, and just businesses and homes, I think, is being prepared with this heat wave that we're all experiencing. What do you think? I just don't understand when all of this is going to stop, because we've been waiting for some kind of vindication, and yet here we are with the deception of climate change all over again. So it's just really tiring. Why do you think this climate change propaganda is still being perpetuated?
Well, it has a lot to do with they don't want. Well, what's causing the heat is the fact that the temperature of the planet is rising due to the increase of the sun's energies that are coming in as we prepare for this grand solar flash. So one of the reasons why they want to keep everybody at home is because they don't want people to receive those light codes that are coming in from the sun. The sun is activating us. Yeah. So the more you get sunlight, the more activation you get, and so that's just part of their plan to keep us away from receiving these new light codons that are coming in from our sun. And that explains.
Okay. Is that the main reason, or is the main reason still trying to perpetuate the climate change narrative? Is that one of the side reasons that they just casually, put in with the whole actual objective of, exacerbating this climate change narrative?
Yeah, well, it makes sense, because they're pushing sunscreen, and that's what they're using in the chemtrails to pretty much, block the sun from reaching our cellular memory in order to wake us up at a cellular level. So it's all masterminded by the powers that be to prevent the solar flash as much as possible, because they know that once enough of us get those new codons in by the light rays of the sun, that as a result of that, the solar flash would inevitably take place, because people would be ready for all that energy to be coming in. So we're being upgraded. So they're trying to prevent the upgrades, in other words, from happening.
And in order to receive those light codes, does that mean, is there a particular amount of time that you've got to be outside? Like what what is the mechanism through which that happens?
They say at least 20 to 30 minutes a day of sunlight is good. It's good to receive the light.
Okay. And you won't believe it. They're now actually warning farmers here in England to make sure they wear sunscreen as well, and as they work outside. And they're just obviously the global warming narrative that about how the sun's rays is now more toxic and more dangerous than ever. Do you think that it's possible that we're heading into a paradigm of lockdowns, but this time with the excuse of climate change?
The entire world structure is going to be replaced by a new structure that is going to benefit humanity. So not in our timeline.
Okay. All right. That's good. And what about the media, Ismael? Do you think they'll ever be taken down? I don't remember asking you this question last time, but are we ever really going to live in a world without these liberal leftist medias monopolize everything?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's part of the takedown of the, dark hats. So,
so BBC and CNN won't exist in 5D, hopefully.
No. Ever since the Earth Alliance initiated Project Odin, which has to do with taking over the airwaves, the satellite systems, the internet, and shifting it over into the hands of the white hats. It's getting close to that point where the airwaves, everything's going to be in the hands of the white hats. All social media, the internet, it's all going to be transferred over to the white hats. That's what the Starlink satellite system is. It's a takeover of the networks.
Have they already taken over the networks and we're just slowly getting to see it unfold, or is it still an ongoing process that we haven't really won the battle with?
No. We've already won the battle from behind the scenes, so it's just a matter of it now, trickling for the rest of us to see. But yeah, right before they initiate the emergency broadcast system, that's when Project Odin is going to be in full force, and all the CEOs of these big media companies are going to be forced to step down.
Okay. And so I keep seeing a lot of spraying in the sky. Is it possible that they've brought back chemtrails, or is there something else that we're seeing? What's going on in the skies?
That's also coming to an end soon. Those are actually those are planes that are being driven by remote control. They're kind of like drone planes that are spraying the skies, and they're trying to prevent the ascension, the solar flash from happening. They're trying to block the sun's energies from coming into the earth.
Okay, that makes sense. But all the people that I speak to about chemtrails who don't actually believe in it and just believe they're condensation trails or whatever it is, their main argument for it is usually just the fact that why would essentially the bad people of this earth do that to the same air that they breathe and the same sky that they live under? But where do they go after spraying the skies? They're still having to live here.
Well, those people are actually being influenced by a alien sentient AI who is in control of the cabal. And so all these negative programs is being maneuvered by AI. See, we're at the highest level of this Luciferian hierarchy. We're actually fighting AI. The cabal are just their puppets. The Draco are just their minions. And so it's all being driven by AI.
Well, some people think you're AI. And
yeah, that's fine. Let them think whatever they want.
How do we know if we're not AI? Is it just the fact that we're sentient beings?
How do we know? Do you bleed?
Oh yeah.
You hurt yourself?
Okay, I do. Wasn't it?
Another indicator is: are you capable of feeling? Do you have emotion? AIs don't have emotion. They can mimic it, but when it comes down to it, sentient AI does not have emotion, and emotion is connected to being connected to source. So they have no connection to source. They don't have souls, and that's what makes us different than AIs. That we have a soul. A soul is an extension of source.
Right. Okay. So I know that we've heard both sides of the perspective of this false light matrix, or what is more commonly known as the soul trap. I think, the lords of karma, by which I'm referring to the dark Orion beings who created this matrix system to enslave us when we die. What is your thought on reincarnation? I'll just keep it there for now and then continue with it.
Well, in this world, yes, they've created a trap for souls to continue to reincarnate into this planet and not evolve to higher dimensions. But that trap or that reincarnational cycle, as they call samsara, has been uplifted already. And I also wanted to point out that a good portion of the Federation has been infiltrated by AI. You know, and that explains why some people are pushing a different, and as they are saying that they're representatives of the Galactic Federation, but we're want people to determine.
Ismael, you're breaking up. I'm not sure if it's my internet or yours. Can you hear me? I think you're breaking up quite a bit.
Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah,
can you hear me now?
Yeah. I think, Ismael, there's a lot of noise coming. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but
it's coming from my neighbors. I'm sorry, they just left. They were out there having a delivery and they're having a conversation. But a lot of this false light is coming by a portion of the Federation that has been infiltrated by artificial intelligence. So that's where the false light is coming from.
So just poverty, illness, death were all part of this system to completely subdue us, wasn't it? And they created these false religions and a karma-based reincarnation system that we could just never escape. And we're told that every time we die, we meet our loved ones, or Jesus, or Muhammad, or whoever we believe in, and they take us to this white light. Isn't this all a deception as well?
Absolutely, yes. Because when you die, you just come back into a different form, in a higher dimension, depending on your progress. If you completed your lessons in this realm, you will move on to the next realm.
Okay. Ismael, I completely lost you at the first question, but could you possibly repeat what you said about reincarnation and what you thought about it?
Sure. Yeah, the reincarnation cycle here on this earth has been orchestrated by the Orion groups through the rings of Saturn, the moon, and then the black box that they set up in space to keep us locked into this, earth. But that technology has recently been lifted. So the reincarnation cycle is over. Now that we're going to ascend and become multidimensional beings, our bodies are going to be upgraded. And we're just going to keep moving up in dimensions as we progress until, we are fully integrated with Prime Creator Source.
Right. So all of the stuff that they tell us about taking us to this place between lives for a life review where we watch all our good and our bad deeds and we're judged by our so-called spirit guides. And, we feel all these emotions of shame and guilt for all the bad stuff we've done. And I read that we are then obviously told to improve. We're given a choice, basically, to improve on our shortcomings by being given the choice to go back into another lifetime. And then we're manipulated into believing that we have to be hurt the same way we hurt others. It's just there's so many lies within lies. And that I think the number one thing that I just don't understand why we've been told is that our purpose to reincarnate again is because we're taught that we always need to be good and obedient, and that makes our souls kind of eager to make these amends, and we can only do that through suffering, and by really just going through the same things our so-called victims had to experience because of us. And we're told that by doing this, we learn not only not to repeat the same mistakes again, but our soul just gets rid of that karmic debt. And so with this manipulation tactic, I feel like the overlords just leave the final decision to us, and they convince themselves that no one forced us to reincarnate. We made the final choice ourselves, and therefore they never really broke the law of free will. So was this all truth before they got rid of this whole system?
Yes, I believe so. Yes, because they have to honor free will at the same time.
Okay. Yeah. And so when did we get rid of reincarnation? Is it after we sort of won this cosmic battle?
Yes, between 2016 and 2018, that's when the black box was removed, which actually correlates with the black box in Mecca.
Okay. So,
or they call it the cube of Mecca.
Right, that makes sense. And how, what happens, once our souls agree to come back to Earth, we are put into this environment and this body that can obviously benefit our soul's so-called growth. Is there any other way to grow, go through a proper growth of our souls without having to suffer? Is suffering a very permanent human condition?
Only in the lower dimensions, but sometimes we have to experience that in order for us to have a greater expansion of the evolution. Sorry about that. Somebody was asking me. Did you get my answer?
I think so. What can you repeat that? Sorry.
Yes. So sometimes suffering is necessary in order for us to continue our expansion and become better. That kind of purifies the soul in a sense. It sharpens it, so the soul becomes stronger when it goes through states of suffering. Because that's when people really begin to once again reunite with God and Source. In order to get out of the suffering. And so it's a catalyst for growth, in other words. And it's only applicable in the lower dimensions, because in the higher dimensions there is no suffering. Everything is peaceful.
Some religions don't even believe in reincarnation and karma. Like in Islam, we don't believe in it. It's not even mentioned in the Quran, I don't think. But that obviously makes no difference. Don't you think they still manage to indoctrinate us through the concept of heaven and hell?
Yes, absolutely. All that stuff that was created by religion is designed to control us, to keep us in fear so that we could give our freedoms and really consent to the powers that be.
So you're saying now we've completely escaped this wheel of samsara, this cycle of death and rebirth, and it wasn't, in fact, a fictitious concept used to keep our souls trapped within this prison of the gods.
Correct. Yeah, that's been lifted. This is our final incarnation. As our body becomes activated, we will become immortal again.
My goodness, that's amazing news. Are we immortal in our current form?
Yes, in our original form, we are. Okay. We are. So we're returning to our original form.
Does that mean people are actually going to live forever, or are we just going to have the choice of leaving but going into other? I don't even know how to articulate this question. Like, what does immortality look like?
Well, there's different levels of immortality. For people that are existing in the fourth dimension, they live for about 300 to 600 years. People that exist in the fifth dimension could live for a few thousand years. Sixth dimension, 100,000 years. Seventh dimension, a few million years. And then once you reach the eighth dimension and up, you just become infinite, eternal. So depending on the dimension you're in, you live longer. Yeah, the closer you are to Source, which is at the higher dimensions, the more immortal you become, the more eternal you become. But there is there is a process that we go through, to become fully infinite. But yeah, we're already reversing that. For many of us that are going into the fifth dimensional Earth and up are going to be like immortals to those that are going into the fourth dimensional Earth.
Wow. My goodness. Okay. That's interesting. So it's more like a spectrum.
A spectrum. There you go.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Do you know anything about Melania Trump? Because I've always wondered whether she's a Romanov for just the longest time. Because when Trump was in the White House, the media completely ignored Melania. And yet she was actually the one who organized the child trafficking task force, I believe. And they never even mentioned her IQ score, which is so high that she actually got a green card to live in USA through I don't want to get this wrong, but I think it's the EB1 program, which is also known as I think she got the she called it the Einstein visa. No, actually she didn't call it. I think it's called the Einstein visa for especially gifted people. And she can speak like 6 languages, more than any other first lady. Like, do you think it's possible that she's a Romanov or from some sort of highly ascended origin?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I have my neighbors talking, so I have to press the mute button. Yes, definitely. To our surprise, she's actually a Pleiadian. She's an extraterrestrial human form.
Oh, wow.
An awakened Pleiadian. So she was sent from the future to protect the Trump family.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So she's not a Romanov, but she's a Pleiadian. She does look like a Pleiadian, actually.
Her physical avatar could come from the lineage of the Romanovs, because the Romanovs are also considered Lyrans and Pleiadians, or galactic humanoids. Just like the original 12 tribes of Israel, or those that carry the pure lineage of Lyra and Pleiadian into the earth. So yeah, she definitely could come from the Romanov lineage, but she is an incarnated Pleiadian.
Right. She does look it. She looks very otherworldly. And I remember when Obama was in power, they made Michelle Obama the darling of the media, yet she really did nothing of any consequence. But last year, I remember, Ishmael, there was this one truther who said something along the lines of Melania signing an agreement with President Trump to stay on as his wife until his presidency ended. And apparently after that they would divorce. Do you reckon there's any truth to that?
No, that's misinformation. Yeah, she's assigned to him until the Whiteheads, or at least till the end, till they decide to eventually move on after the Whiteheads have initiated the new Gesera and Nisera programs for all of humanity. So yeah, that's all misinformation.
So they're definitely still married.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay. I know we touched on the topic of destiny and free will last time, and as we ascend, I think people are now understanding the laws of quantum physics and realizing how we're able to manipulate energy through the power of our mind. So my question is, I'm not really sure how to articulate this in the best way, but essentially what I'd like to know is, if we truly are so inherently powerful, are we able to change events that are predestined through deep, transcendental meditation, or just harnessing those powers that we have? Are we able to change events that are considered to be predestined?
Absolutely. Yes. Because everything is, every event, there's an infinite amount of possibilities and probabilities. So through our meditations and through our ability to tap into the quantum field, we could actually tap into the timeline that we chose to exist in. We could manifest the probability that we align with, not the probability that somebody else set forth for us, so we could alter it through our meditations.
snowflakes because they deny the reality that they see with their own eyes because they're so scared of the mob. And there's no division now between the sacred and the profane anymore. So do you think there will be an abrupt end to this glorification of perversion that we're seeing in our realm? Or are we looking at quite a slow, painful death of this woke mentality that is so just fervently swept across our planet?
There's going to be a sudden end, a sudden transition, a quantum leap in evolution that's going to change everything overnight like that.
Wow. So, okay, that's quite abrupt then. Because honestly, if we keep embracing this world of chaos, like we can't even define the word woman anymore without the fear of offending someone. So society will essentially collapse if we keep going like this. But well, that's good to hear that it's going to end quite abruptly. Can you still hear me? Because I can hear a few noises.
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you. I'm sorry. That was a dog shaking. I have a dog that has a chain, and every time she shakes, you could hear that. Sorry about that.
We're told that the moon is a little more than 1/4 of the size of the Earth, and I mean another crazy characteristic compared to any other natural satellite in our cosmic region. And we're told that of all the moons in the solar system, ours is the 5th largest. I think no other planet that we're aware of has a moon that is so proportionately as big as ours. But it seems like a lot of people have a lot of different contrasting theories about the moon. Some say that it's a alien spacecraft. Some say it's a holographic illusion. Others say that it's a type of artificial satellite. What are your thoughts on this? Okay, can't hear you yet.
Are you there?
Yep, can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, so yeah, the moon's actually an artificial construct. Constructed originally, it was made by the Federation, but then it was taken over by the Draco in order to keep us in this reincarnational cycle. And that's how they were able to control the frequency waves that caused a lot of suffering for thousands of years through the moon. So inside the moon, it's all hollowed. It's there's different. It's driven, by extraterrestrials, and so they have colonies that live within the moon.
Oh my god! But the moon is always going to exist, isn't it?
We used to have a second moon that was the original moon, but that was used by the Atlanteans to destroy Lemuria when Atlantis was taken over by Enki's son Marduk. Yeah. But upon the restoration, I do believe that we are going to have 2 suns again and 2 moons. But these moons are going to be natural moons. It's not going to be the artificial construct that we have right now. That's going to be replaced.
Okay. Interesting. I know that we, as humans, know a lot of facts about time, mostly because of all these studies that we've seen testing Einstein's theory of general relativity. I'm not really asking what we know or can measure about time, but I'm asking what we specifically can't know, which is, does time have a beginning or an end?
No, time is an illusion. It's a perceptual construct that only exists in the 3rd dimension. Beyond the 3rd dimension, there is no time. Everything's happening all simultaneously. Everything is eternal, part of an eternal now, you could say. So,
but what about before the inception of our universe?
There was just eternity. Yeah. So as far as our cosmic time is concerned, the multiverse came into existence over 900 billion years ago.
Okay.
In terms of time.
Sorry, go say.
So in terms of time, we could say that the multiverse or the 15th dimensional matrix came into existence about a little over 900 billion years ago.
Oh my god! So what was in space before our universe existed? What lies beyond our universe? What does forever in terms of space look like?
The realms of eternity existed before the 15th dimensional time matrix came into being.
So there's no beginning, no end, essentially.
Yeah, the realm of eternity, there is no beginning, no end. It's energy vibrating at its highest frequency. And that marks the stage of what we call the central universe, the always existing realms of the motherverse. So before any universe was developed, the motherverse has always existed. In fact, the universes are experimentations in time and space. And that's what.
Okay. So essentially there's no stopping point, and
correct.
At no point does at some point, I guess, does it just circle back to the beginning, or there is no beginning, I guess? So that's not.
Yeah, we're existing in cycles. So we're reversing the 900 billion year cycle. We're going back to creative source to repeat it again eventually as we enter a new realm, a new cycle of creation.
I understand that, consciousness just means that while we're moving through time, we're aware that we move through it. A tree, for example, on the other hand, doesn't seem to be aware that it moves through time. And, while physics explains how chemistry works, and chemistry explains how biology works, and biology explains how psychology works, consciousness doesn't seem to really fit in anywhere. Even scientists, I don't think, have discovered where consciousness resides in our brain or in our soul or just in our being. Do you think what is consciousness? Do you think consciousness is the place in which it's located?
Consciousness is pure energy. It's all around us. We are part of this field. Our mind is inside
intelligent life form in the universe, similar to us in the way that we communicate verbally, eat, drink, procreate, and desire intimacy? Like, is there any other similar life form?
Absolutely, yes. There's millions upon millions of civilizations and species that are just like us.
So Earth isn't predominantly the one place you experience life through the five senses?
No. The third dimensional universe exists everywhere. It's not just here.
Okay. That's interesting. So I think that's it. I think I've gone through all of my questions. I did want to make a disclaimer for all the people who, in regards to some of the comments in my last video, there were so many people who were upset because I referred to God as a he. I didn't really understand that because I know that God's never described with sexual characteristics in the scriptures, but he does, consistently describe himself in the masculine gender, and he contains all the qualities of both male and female genders, and he's chosen to present himself with, I guess you could say, an emphasis on masculine qualities of things like fatherhood, protection, direction, strength. So I don't really understand why people got so angry at me about that, but oh well. I think that's about it, Ismael. Until we speak again, thank you so much for joining me again. And hopefully we can do it again once I have more questions.
All right, sounds good.
Lovely. Thank you.